Bulavanaka, welcome to today's episode of the Fiji Times News and Sports Headlines, a snapshot of our main stories in today's edition. Leading the news today, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says there is a dangerous upsurge in hatred and has called on Fijian parliamentarians to scale up their response to hate speech. As part of his visit to the Pacific this week, Mr. Guterres also visited the two mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, which were scenes of two horrific terrorist attacks against Muslims. More than 40 lives were lost in both attacks. While speaking to Fijian MPs in Parliament yesterday, Mr. Guterres said, quote, "Around the world we are facing rising anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim rhetoric, the persecution of Christians and other forms of xenophobia against migrants and refugees and racism," unquote. He said, "We must all show solidarity in response to this dangerous upsurge in hatred and scale up our response to hate speech, which is coercing our public dialogue in many countries and regions of the world." Mr. Guterres said the Fijian example of tolerance was a very important example today. Meanwhile, Mr. Guterres honored all Fijian peacekeepers who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in the service of global peace in a solemn wreath-laying ceremony held yesterday at the National War Memorial in Suva. The United Nations Secretary General laid a wreath at the Fiji National War Memorial to honor all Fijian peacekeepers for their sacrifices and commitment made in the UN peacekeeping. It was also in remembrance of more than 60 Fijian peacekeepers who have died in the line of duty since the first deployment of the Fijian peacekeepers to the United Nations interim forces in South Lebanon since 1978. The Supreme Court of New Zealand has dismissed a former Fiji Football Association president, Dr. Shamsuddin Sahu Khan's case for claiming for damages against a man he claimed to have cheated him of more than $170,000. Dr. Sahu Khan claimed that he was approached by Mohammed Sharif, who told him that the Fiji's Prime Minister and Attorney General wanted Dr. Sahu Khan to give constitutional law advice to the Fiji government. Dr. Sahu Khan said he was told he would be a member of a proposed Fiji Constitutional Reform Committee. Dr. Sahu Khan said Mr. Sharif told him that he would receive a remuneration of $3 million per year for his services. The court said Dr. Sahu Khan's submissions did not develop any challenge to the relevant principles, but rather the focus was on the factual findings and the application of the principles in relation to the tort of deceit to the specific facts. And close to 300 people are expected to be part of the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia and Biphobia in Suva today. During a press conference in Nambour yesterday, Pacific Sexual and Gender Diversity Network and Rainbow Pride Foundation Executive Director Isekeli Wolavo extended an invitation to members of the public to be part of the event. He said this year's theme on justice and protection for all was timely, given that justice are yet to be served on unsolved murder cases. The march will commence at the flea market in Suva at around 9:30 this morning and end at Sukuna Park, where members of the community would provide entertainment. And in sports, the Nandrunga rugby team will be wearing black armbands on Saturday against Naita Siri in the Skipper Cup competition to commemorate the loss of their head trainer, Nimelo Tendao, who was laid to rest yesterday at his village in Rukurukulevu in Singatoka. Nandrunga rugby president Tiko Matawalu said the loss of their trainer would be a boost to the players' morale for the rest of the season. Meanwhile, thousands of people turned up at Ndao's funeral to pay their last respect for a man that humbled himself for the greatness of a player, club, provincial team, and national team. Dow's legacy lives with the Nandrunga rugby team, Dovo College Rugby, and he was also part of the ACS success in the Coca-Cola Games. The Fijian Va'a team is citing 6 gold medals at the Samoa Pacific Games, which is scheduled for July 7th to the 20th. The team of 26 athletes is training daily from the early hours of the morning at the Fiji Sailing Center in Lodala Bay in Suva. Head coach Dwayne Weha said the team had already made their goal of 6 medals, which they were working towards. Despite the unfavorable weather conditions for the water sport, the team had been braving windy mornings as they prepare for July. And the Fiji Airways Fiji Sevens team captain Paula Andrani Sinukula seeks the nation's support as they embark on one final journey in London and Paris that will determine their fate on the World Sevens Series title. Andrani Sinukula said they are expecting a lot of pressure from their opponents and fans, but he's assured his boys will handle it professionally. The skipper has also reminded the people of Fiji to continue to cheer for the team, although they were one of the most underrated teams in the last leg, but also managed one of Fiji's best finishes in the series so far this season. Fiji are pooled with Kenya, Samoa and France in London. For detailed reports of these stories and more, you will find in today's print and e-edition. And looking at the weather, fine apart from brief showers over the eastern and interior parts of the larger islands, and fine apart from isolated afternoon or evening showers elsewhere, and cool at night. Expect moderate to fresh southeast winds with moderate to rough seas. Outlook for tomorrow, fine apart from brief showers over the eastern and interior parts of the larger islands. Elsewhere, mainly fine and cool at night. And that is all we have from the Fiji Times newsroom for you today. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and like our Facebook page. Subscribe to our website to get the latest news, sports, regional and world news. For news tips, email us at timesnews@fijitimes.com.fj. Thank you for your company. Until tomorrow. Bye for now.